Everybody, welcome to our weekly webinar, 12 o'clock. The noonday gun has just gone off. So this week we have a webinar on Tuesday and on Thursday. So it's a double whammy this week. And today's webinar hosted by REI alongside Cypriot Realty. And we're thrilled to kick off yet another insightful session. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Neil Peterson. I'm the founder and content-in-chief of Real Estate Investor, South Africa's premier independent real estate content, education, and news platform since 2007. And at REI, we're really passionate about serving South African real estate investors, the real estate industry, and the property business community through our online digital platform, rei.co.za, our monthly digital magazine, Real Estate Investor, and REI's investment webinars, our in-person seminars, and conferences. So our topic for today is Gateway to Cyprus, secure permanent residency through smart property investment. And I have the pleasure of serving as your host and moderator for this session. And we're really thrilled to have you join us for this session. So before I introduce you to our Cypriot expert panelists, and we delve into our discussion for today, first a little bit of housekeeping. I extend a warm invitation to our guests and for those new guests and also our faithful attendees to actively engage with us. You just ask a question, fire away with those questions. Just utilize the Q&A box on the bottom, not the chat box, which is for general comments, and we will deal with them a little bit later. So recordings are available. We get that question a lot. For those who've registered, it will automatically be emailed through to you. For those who've not registered, they are available on the rei.co.za website under events on the home page. So let's move into the heart of today's webinar, Cyprus permanent residency and property investment. And if you're considering offshore property investment, this is the place to be. And whether it's in Europe or even a plan B or in Cyprus, or this is the discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our esteemed guest panelist. Her name is Jenny Elenas, and she is the CEO and founder of Cypriot Realty. And she's South African. Tell us that story there, please, Jenny.
Right. Hi, Neil, and welcome to everybody and to listening into the webinar today. It's great to be part of this whole exciting journey. Sad to say, you can see from our top, I'm sitting in Cyprus where it's 35, 36 degrees. You guys are sitting and dealing with winter in Cape Town. But yeah, so Neil, it's been a very exciting journey. In 2008, I was chatting with my husband and we decided we wanted to realize a plan B. And we were looking more Eurocentric than some of the other countries. And I went across to investigate a lot of the property residency programs available through the various companies. And I went on my own and I had a look and see. And within 5 working days, Neil, I realized there was a potential to help fellow South Africans realize a plan B on this little island in the Med called Cyprus. So some of the things that are important that a lot of people may not know is that Cyprus is not part of Greece. Although Greek is one of the official languages, it's certainly not prolific at all. It's an ex-British colony. So you drive on the correct side of the road on the left. Makes a big difference. And we started our journey together, you and I, in fact, in 2008, when I placed one of my first ads and we did some exposure about Cyprus. So it's good to be part of the journey with you, Neil, and I'm looking forward to chatting to everybody today.
Absolutely. Always great having you, Jenny. And love your enthusiasm, your passion for this business. And it's really exciting. I mean, I've been there a couple of times. Beautiful Cyprus. And I think really an option for typical South African lifestyle. So let's get into questions, and I know you've got a lot of slides for us there, Jenny. So if you could please, if we could probably just go into the Q&A session. So first of all, let's talk about Cyprus per se. Why is Cyprus such an attractive option for investors? I mean, what are the benefits of residing and investing into property compared to other European countries? So why Cyprus?
So I think, Neil, you've rightfully said that. What I thought is that we haven't had a visual representation of the country for a long time. So it's good to keep your listeners and your viewers up to speed in terms of what's happening. So Cyprus has really become one of the forefront countries at the moment that's offering residency through the purchase of property. We're going to talk, as I go through the presentation with you, kind of moderating some of those lead questions about the residency programs, what's changed, how things can work for South Africans, some of the challenges we've got, got, but maybe I'll just kick off in terms of where Cyprus is in the Mediterranean, the proximity that it has to a lot of the countries. It's very easy to get across the pond. It's a 4-hour flight or an easy jet to get to the UK. You want to do some business with Putin, you can catch a Wizz Air flight in about 3.5 hours, you're there. You want to nip down to South Africa, well, you still got the big standard airlines like the Emirates, the Qatar. That would be the best direct route. Unfortunately, no direct flights from South Africa, but it doesn't mean that you can't certainly get here, which makes a big difference. The island itself, Neil, is divided, and I always am quite clear and transparent when I chat to potential investors about this. The northern part has been occupied by Turkey since 1974. That's 50 years ago. There's no animosity. There's no reason for people to be nervous. The reason that Cyprus joined the Eurozone was specifically to buy their insurance that Turkey would never be able to invade further south. We do have 2 international airports. The one in the Paphos region serves mainly the low-cost airlines coming from Europe, and Larnaca is where you got the big boys, the big Boeings coming from Africa and around the rest of the world. We've got lots and lots of marinas. So again, people that are wanting to come to the island can come by boat, they can come by plane, or even they're wanting to look at something else, there's an option for them to consider that as well. I'm going to flick through 4 of the main cities on the island, Neil, just to give everybody an overview of what we have. So Nicosia is the capital of the island. It's smack bang right in the top third of the country. So there's nothing to do with sea, no sea views. You're not on the coast at all. We have Ayia Napa, which is on the far eastern side of the island. And this is where the beautiful, pristine beaches are. You have everybody who wants to party. A lot of the nightclub happens when the kids are on school. It really is the throbbing part of the island. But having said that, in winter, this part of the island really slows down because they are quite reliant on tourism. Larnaca is where they have their international airport, and there they have some quite exciting new things that are happening there. They've just recently done a revamp of the promenade, but it very much is a stop and splatter city because it doesn't have so much to offer in terms of topography or antiquities, etc. A lot of people will land at Larnaca and they'll end up going somewhere else. Limassol is the Santon of Cyprus. This is where all the big boys with their money, when they're wanting to do their big business, a lot, pre the war, a lot of the oligarchs that set up shop here. You have your marina, you have everything that you need. This is where the big long mile of high-rise buildings are, huge big hotels. This, you can smell the money. The guys that arrive there in cars we haven't even seen in Africa with money we don't even know, this is where they like to be based. And the main reason is because this is where the main port is. So anybody who's doing anything on that industry where they're looking to get product in and out of the island, this is where they're going to find it on that part. By far, the lifestyle part of the island is on the West, Neil. This is the Western Cape, the Cape Town of the island, with golf estates are there, the wine estates. You've got the beautiful beaches. You've got a lot of green land. This is where, when the snow falls in the mountains and it goes down onto the island, this is where it keeps everything green. So a big agricultural part of the island is here in the Paphos region. So we've got the north where the capital is, on the east, the party, Santon of Cyprus is on the south, and on the west, that entire province is the province of Paphos on the island.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the attractiveness of the market, because, how does the current economic and political climate in Cyprus impact residency programs, investment, and that kind of stuff? So just expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, so Neil, where we are located, we have unfortunately been influenced a lot by the war in Russia with Ukraine. That stopped a lot of the big boys coming to do business. Across the pond, we have what's happening in Israel. But this has been a conflict that's been going on for centuries, so that's not something new. And fortunately, it seems to be more on the inner part of that anyway. But despite that, there is huge investor confidence coming into Cyprus. The rating boys are very happy. They're thinking what's happening from a governmental point of view with our banks, with our lending, with our import-export strategy. Everybody is saying thumbs up, thumbs up. We are really happy with what Cyprus is doing. And there's probably a memory that some of your viewers will have back in 2013 when one of the banks in Cyprus collapsed. There was a run on the money. Everybody was really scared to invest. But here we are, 11 years later, certainly over the last couple of years anyway, the boys are happy with what Cyprus is doing. Very stable economy, Neil. We've got the natural gas. Guy's going to talk a little bit about. Lots has been happening. Everybody had a growth after COVID. Last year, we had some nice growth as well, and they're predicting continuing the momentum with what Cyprus is doing. We're looking at about a 2.9, maybe even over the 3% for our growth, our GDP growth. The energy center where Cyprus is now, with all of these big gas companies that are taking up platforms in Cyprus's exclusive economic zones, is very impressive. And the main reason for this is because Europe wants Cyprus to be much more of a provider of energy, and that they're less reliant on the likes of Syria, of Moscow, of whatever is happening across the end of the pond. So you can see some big players are there. And interestingly enough, a lot of them have already set up their offices. So when these platforms go out and they start the drilling, they're going to have accommodation ready, office set up. They're going to be bringing their families, kids into schools. This is going to have a massive impact on the economy. And then, of course, our gas prices and oil, etc., is going to come shooting down because we now have our own product that we don't necessarily have to be so reliant on. They've already built a pipeline of getting gas into Europe, 800 million to 1 trillion euros. That's a lot of rand to build this pipeline to get the gas from Egypt into Israel and across through to the rest of the European Union. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of why there's this huge, big investment. And in fact, last year, the biggest casino resort ever launched in Europe was done in Cyprus. It's a Malco group. They're Hong Kong guys. They have a huge, big design that they wanted to get on board, 500 rooms. It doesn't sound a lot with South African standards, but to have this huge amount of foreign investment of 550 million euros just in one resort shows how much confidence there is in terms of what's happening. And more importantly, for our investors that are listening today, the real estate market is booming. This year, Q1, we've got reached over 11.6 billion euros just in real estate turnaround. And it's purely because people are confident. And the minute you have confidence from companies and resorts and individuals, you have a direct impact onto real estate.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself there, Jenny. Let's. You got a slide up, obviously, on tax, because it's quite a big question. If you start looking at what the tax situation is, maybe just how does the tax regime benefit from property investors? Maybe just elaborate on
of course.
On the tax implications.
The most important, you can see on here, Neil, is the inheritance tax. There's zero in Cyprus. So what that means is when you have any asset that's outside of the South African shores, of course, you need to register this with SARS and let everybody know what you're doing. But the Cypriot authorities, on the death of whoever owns the property or whatever it is, will make sure that that gets descended down to whoever is on the will, without having to pay 1 cent to the Cypriot government. VAT sits at 19%, but it's not as straightforward. Every product is there at 19%. A lot of them are at 5 or 0 rated. For example, hairdressers, bottled water, and I think having your nails done. It's really important that we have these things at a 0 rate. Capital gains is at 20%, but you have quite a large concession before that kicks in. And more importantly, for any of your viewers today who are wanting to set up companies, the corporate tax is capped at 12.5% and 0 tax on your dividends for the next 17 years. So that makes it quite meaningful. But let's look at the real numbers. So in terms of if somebody was wanting to come across to Cyprus, either rent out a property and earn an income or live here, your first 386,000 Rand a year is exempt from paying tax. And even then, your next bracket only sits at about 555,000. You can see the difference with what we're paying in South Africa versus Cyprus. So definitely in terms of tax planning, legacy planning, building up an asset base, making sure you're protecting your family, this is definitely the way that you want to be going, is on the tax structure.
Excellent. Good. So, in Cyprus, obviously, let's look a little bit at the market dynamics, for making investment choices. Maybe just talk about some of the key factors that influence the value of property, how investors can capitalize, and really just sort of understanding, the market a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So when I mentioned that the Paphos area, which is on the west, is the Cape Town of Cyprus. It's definitely the lifestyle part of it. It's where people come because it's a low-rise building ethos. They don't allow these high-rise buildings to interfere with people's views. And in fact, we've had some very interesting things that have happened in the province of Paphos. So headquartering is a huge, big strategy, Neil, that a lot of big companies around Europe are looking to do. So they basically will take their business, bring it across, lock, stock, barrel, have bricks and mortars. Their staff will be able to work there. They'll benefit from the low tax. They'll be able to be a part of the community. And they found that Paphos, because it has its own international airport and it's very accessible to Europe, and with a laid back lifestyle, with all of the other things I'm going to talk about in the next few slides, it's very, very quickly become a preferred destination for a lot of the high-tech companies, a lot of those boys that are playing in that space. We've even had the American University of Beirut, who has set up their brand new campus in the Paphos city. And the reason that they opted for that is, again, you have access to airports. It's a low-rise environment. It's very easy for the students to get around. They've got a lot of interesting social sciences on their faculty. Don't think just because it's a little sleepy Paphos that the entry exam is not going to be difficult, but they have lots and lots of scholarships available. This is their second year in operation, and it's turned out to be a very big deal for them. Also last year, they were voted as the capital in Europe of smart tourism. What this means is that when you have tourists coming along, it's all of those touchy-feely things that a lot of people ignore. It's the fact that they are immersed in technology. Everything you go is a QR code, something that you're scanning in, something that you're touching. So this is why Paphos itself was voted that, because we came up with some quite innovative ideas. And when it went around to be voted in, that was a no-brainer. That was the accolade. Even a brand we know, Ocean Basket, has opened their flagship European store now in the harbor in Paphos. It's great. It's a huge, big, amazing event. You can have a look down onto the harbor and see all the boats, stunning views from there. And of course, even arts and culture, for those of our people listening today, that is important for them. Every year there's the opera festival, and Cyprus is on the opera tour. And what this means is you have between 5,000 and 8,000 tourists who just come for those 2 nights of opera. That means they've got to have somewhere to stay, they've got to have somewhere to eat. This is part of their schedule. And this has been a really good relationship that the mayor of Paphos has actually ended up doing, was to focus on this, to have this as part of the opera stop within the environment in the EU. So this is really why this has been a big thing for Paphos. And most importantly, compare the market. I know we laugh at their ads, but this year, Paphos was nominated as the best livable small city, purely because of what it has to offer. So you've got restaurants, you've got all the lifestyle things that happen, but it makes a lot of sense for people that are looking for a potential relocation to seriously consider Cyprus, and definitely look at Paphos when this is something you want to have a look at.
No, well, fortunately, I've been there, Jenny. Beautiful city, absolutely wonderful. So I can definitely vouch for what you're saying over here. So let's talk a little bit about sort of plan B options, but also how residency fits into broader life plans. I mean, how does Cypriot residency programs impact long-term plans for living, working, retiring? And I know there's various residency programs, and I think there's 3 of them, which you're going to share with us right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, so in terms of Neil, we never know who we're speaking to and what their long-term plans are. A lot of it's residency initially, or soon it might be looking at the lifestyle aspects, maybe even including retirement. But whatever you're looking at, a lot of the Europeans have closed their residency programs. I mean, Portugal, in terms of doing that through buying real estate, has now changed. Greece, end of this month, if you have not already gone into the program, it's now 800,000 euros to get residency in Greece. Ireland closed their golden visa program. Even Australia has looked at scrapping their golden visa. Malta has a whole lot more issues in terms of what you need to have. And Spain, their current entry level is $500,000, and they're considering either scrapping it or increasing it to €1,000,000. So what this is saying, Neil, is that countries are going to close their programs when they feel they have enough of the right caliber of investor. We don't know when it's going to happen. Us, on the street, we're always the last people to know, but there is still an open market in Cyprus. And in fact, it's one of the few where it's relatively affordable. And we're going to go through the details in terms of what that is. So we have basically 2 options, Neil: securing residency or immigration stroke relocation. And in Cyprus, we've got 2 residency programs. One is the fast track. You're in, you're done, you buy your property, you're done and dusted. The other one, as I fondly call it, is the slow track. And the reason it's slow track, it takes a long time to do it. It has been voted as the best permanent residency program in Europe purely because it's still open, it's relatively affordable, it's a clear-cut matrix, you're in, you're out, you know what to do. And this is exactly how it works. So who qualifies on the program is mum, dad, kids under the age of 18, of course. And it also includes dependent children who are still at university up to the age of 25. They changed their program, Neil. Unfortunately, mum-in-law and dad and mum don't qualify anymore, purely because they've decided to focus just on 2 generations. The criteria is you need to invest in a property for a minimum of 300,000 euros. You don't have to put money in a bank account to have that as one of the criteria, but you do need to prove annual funds. It's quite an eye-watering amount. I mean, it's 50,000 euros for the main investor, 15 for the spouse, and 10 each for each child. So if you're looking at a family of 4, you're looking at 85,000 euros a year. It's around about 1.7 million rand. That's quite a lot of money in terms of that. The standard stuff, criminal record needs to be clear, proof of your funds, etc. It takes about 11 to 12 months, but your permanent residency is for life. It never has to be renewed. It's a guarantee to be there. Yes, you can rent your property out on this as long as you pay the relevant VAT. You only have to come back to Cyprus one day every second year for your residency to be valid, and you're eligible to be part of Cyprus's national health. And if you live in the country for a certain number of days a year, for a certain number of years, you're eligible to become a Cypriot citizen. But that's quite a long naturalization program. And in terms of the category F, the slow track, as I mentioned, the main reason and the main difference in terms of what it is it's only mum and dad and dependent children under 18. Unfortunately, children studying don't qualify. But the big plus on this program, Neil, is that you can get non-related people buying a property together. So maybe there's a small consortium of investors. They want to pool their money, buy the property together, then they can each qualify for residency using the jointly owned property. So you can have siblings buying and you can include the parents. So this is a nice way where you're not prescribed to buy on the 300,000 euro threshold, because here you can see there's no minimum amount. You do, though, have to have money in a separate bank account, and you do need to have proof of your source of funds, which is 15,000 for the main investor and 5 for the dependent child and, of course, your spouse. It takes 4 years. This is why it's known as the slow track program. You start off as a temporary resident. Every year they need to renew it. Yes, you can rent your property out to earn an income. You still need to come back one day every second year. And here you'll pay transfer duty versus VAT. But unlike the fast track, you need to be a permanent resident before you can start applying for your citizenship. So it is quite a different program. If we look at the Plan B options, just a quick recap. New on the fast track, it's 300,000 euros. On the slow track, you need to put money in the bank account in Cyprus. You have to have proof of source of your funds, and of course, in terms of what you need to earn annually, and the time period is quite different. And the big plus for the fast track, it's permanent residence immediately. That means you can never have to have a Cypriot visa in order to come through to Cyprus. Whereas on the slow track, you need to renew it every year, and it takes quite a lot longer to become a permanent resident. Just another huge benefit is when you move to Cyprus, being a permanent resident, you're on Cyprus's national health. That means no more headaches with medical aid bills, no more worrying about sitting in queues, no medical exams are needed. Whereas on the slow track, you do need private insurance, and all pre-existing conditions will be excluded from your plan, of course. So these are some of the nice lifestyle aspects. You may have some viewers today, Neil, that are looking at emigrating to Cyprus, and there are a lot of interesting programs that we can actually talk about. But one of the ones I do want to just chat about is you can look and feel before you buy. So we'll assist you, hold your hand, look at getting the paperwork you need from South Africa, help you find your rental property, look at the legal and tax advice that you need to get registered, secure you with your medical, and make sure that everything is actually how you need to do so you can get yourselves on foot. So it definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, before we get into the whole property market, I think there's a lot of people, it's quite a big trend in South Africa. They're looking at obviously moving to a resident or a country which have identified as a resident, and just to have a look and see, and just to get a real good feel of what the country offers and whether it fits into their profile. And I'm sure Cyprus has that same opportunity as well to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Neil, when we're going to talk at the end of the presentation about the inspection trip, but that is purely one of the reasons as well that we have some personal trip on offer, because we need to know, who are you? Is it short? Is it medium?
Yes.
Is it long term? What about the kids? What about schools? How can we actually make this a reality for you? Yeah.
So wonderful. So just for the audience out there, please hang on, because there's an opportunity for you to go and do an inspection trip to Cyprus. And Jenny has very kindly offered 3 nights out of 5 nights that you'll be staying over in a 5-star hotel in Paphos, right next to the water, beautiful hotel. And you'll get those 3 nights on the house, thanks to Cypriot Realty and to Leptos as well. So thanks very much for that. So hang on right to the end for that. and you can move pretty quickly. And I would suggest, really, if you want to find out a little bit more, is to actually go and feel the cloth. Jump on a plane, spend some time with Jenny, and do it on that basis. Okay, so let's get into the whole property market. What are the key factors that influence the value of property in Cyprus? How can investors capitalize on the trends? Let's talk about pitfalls, challenges investors face when owning property. So let's open the whole property thing, because I know there are a lot of property investors listening here today.
Yes, of course. So, Neil, I think the first thing that a lot of South Africans battle with is this grey listing that's hanging over our heads, because it really has been a stumbling block when it comes to certain documentation not being readily available. It's now mandatory. A police clearance almost is attached to everything that you're wanting to do. A lot of the banks here now are nervous. So unless you are a resident in Cyprus, they are not opening bank accounts anymore. And that has been a mandate that came from the Central Bank of Cyprus, which is authorized by the Euro Central Bank as well. They're really wanting to clean up their books because they're nervous. Not all investors are bad, as we know, but unfortunately, this grey listing has had an impact. The other challenge, of course, is getting your documentation apostilled, but we've got a process. We've got partners in South Africa that we can recommend and make sure that everything happens. And then, of course, it's the question of now you've decided we need to look at the properties. So in a nutshell, I'm going to whip through some of the images just to kind of give a breakdown of whatever is happening on the island. But Paphos continues to really be one of the areas that has drawn a lot of investment from foreigners. It's because of that laid-back lifestyle, Neil. You've got the wine estates, the golf estates. It really is home from a lot of us South Africans, so it makes it very easy. You've got the townhouse developments, which are quite typical. We know them quite well in all of the areas in South Africa. We've got villa estates. They're not quite what we used to in SA with huge big walls and guardhouses in the front, but they are a secure estate, if you want to put it in inverted commas. The location is great because it's all accessibility to the beaches and the seas. Those are the guys that have got lots of money and want to have that beautiful villa right by the edge of the Med. We can facilitate that. You want to have your suburban living, where it's similar to living in South Africa with their lovely big gardens, your garages, your homes, your swimming pool. That's certainly available as well. Everything in Cyprus seems to be orientated where it gives the maximum views of whatever your local area is. And this is where we have some big opportunities. We have huge big opportunities in Limassol for the guys that are looking to own a little slither of sky. But this is where you are probably looking at about 750,000 euros for a one-bedroom entry level. Not easy to swallow that price, but certainly we have those availabilities. In very high-end apartment blocks right near the new marina in Limassol as well. Lots of old resale properties that you can grab your hands on and run away with something from about 90, 100, 110,000 euros. Whatever you're looking at, you've got that lifestyle aspect, Neil, which makes it very easy. The jewel of the tourist areas where you have 1, 2, 3 bed apartments where you're a 5-minute walk from the beach, you're on bus routes, close to the restaurants, close to the shops. This is where your tourist wants to be. We can certainly facilitate anything that people are looking for on those fronts. You mentioned a little earlier some of the idiosyncrasies that make owning property for South Africans interesting. So first of all, with the war in Russia and what was happening with a lot of the Ukrainians and what's happening across the pond with Israel, and a lot of people are wanting to escape those situations, Neil. So we noticed 3 years ago when the things happened with Ukraine that a lot of the young guys that were coming to be digital nomads were choosing to come and escape to Cyprus. The property prices were quite realistically affordable, but they were signing up longer and longer rentals. So that meant that the rental market suddenly started to become buoyant. But we've still got the big advantage that there's a high demand for the short-term guys, because you've got an island, it's in the Med, you've got 300 and quite a lot of days of sunshine, very easy to get across Europe, and not everybody wants to stay in a hotel when they're coming through. So you've got excellent yields on your property rental, but of course also having a long-term lease is very good, because you as the owner have the benefit of your tenant paying, utilities stay in the tenant's name, and it makes a lot of sense. And of course, the short term always for me is a winner. And we created a new division in 2019 where we manage properties, we put them on a short term listing, and we've had very, very happy clients who've managed to get some decent euro income coming into the coffers. So it's made a lot of sense.
Wonderful. Good. So yes, we're going to sort of unpack, sort of currency, always a big thing for South Africans. So maybe just talk about a little bit about some how, from an investment perspective, let's talk some of the numbers. Let's have a look at what the impacts are. If you could take us through that, please, Jenny.
Oh, sure. So, Neil, the big thing that a lot of my South African investors face when they come to the island is they need to remember this is Europe. We don't have the luxury of Africa with big property stands, big, huge, 500 square meter homes. This is not. This is Europe where things are a lot more compact. Plus, we have the challenge of the exchange rate. So today we're 1980 to 1. Who knows next week? America sneezes, we get flu. This is just such a volatile thing, as we all know in this kind of industry. But what I thought I would do is just compare to the viewers of some options. So let's just say you're looking to get in at 100,000 euro mark. You're looking with a couple of your mates, or what could you get in South Africa? Well, in Joburg, around about a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. Your levies are around about 2,400 Rand a month. It is manned with 24-hour security. It's not a bad size. Conversely, in Cyprus, you're looking at a studio apartment, much smaller in terms of size and square meterage, but you have year-round rental because this particular unit is linked to a 3-star hotel. So although it looks like quite a lot of money in terms of the difference, here you have a much better return in terms of getting a 9 or 10% return on your investment per annum in euros. Converted 20 to 1, that makes quite a lot of sense. You might be looking at a 200,000 euro investment. So in Belita and Natal, you're on just shy of 4 million Rand. There's a 3-bed apartment. Your levies are about 3,600 a month. Your rates are about 2,500 a month. So before you've even opened your front door, you're in for about 6,000 Rand. Conversely, you could get an apartment that's 400 meters away from the sea, huge tourist demand. There are levies. If you look at the difference between what you're paying in Cyprus versus South Africa, and this is at the exchange rate, makes a lot of sense. And the big benefit is here you're earning a really decent rental income, or you can choose to live here yourself, purely because it has that as an opportunity. If we're heading for the permanent residency and we want to get it on the fast track program, well, you'd have to go to Cape Town. You can get something quite nice in Fresnay, 2-bed apartment. It's had a gas hob, I noticed on the description, so that's obviously to help with Eskom, although it's been a lot better. But your levies are high, Neil. I mean, you're looking at 3,800 Rand a month again before you've done anything. Not a bad size apartment. In here, you can get something in an estate. 2 beds, 2 baths, 15-minute walk to the sea. Your levies are around about 2/3 the price of what you'll be paying there. Huge demand for long-term rentals. And it really makes a lot of sense in terms of what's available in the 2 different countries. So this is what we unpack when we talk about the inspection trip, because there is a lot to see and a lot to do. And this is where we actually do things, what we need to, what's important for the investors.
No, good. Because I think, look, it's very important, obviously, to if you're going to buy into a euro-based economy, you're now into a euro, and whether you buy or sell, whatever, you're still going to get your investment back significantly and grow it in euro currency. Yes. So yeah, so take us through obviously some of the as we said, some of the pitfalls, some of the challenges, some of the market of the property market, because you've unpacked all the different variety and why Cyprus delivers from that perspective.
Yeah, I think, Neil, the most important thing to get across today is that these permanent residency programs, as we've seen with many countries, change. So we don't know when that they're going to call it and say, that's it, no more. We're not, as a separate government philosophy, we just don't want to do this anymore. Because I think once they start exploring the natural gas and it starts getting pumped out of the ground and shot across to the EU, why would they want to sell the country, in inverted commas, for such a relatively affordable amount? They're going to be bringing in trillions of euros from this as an economy. So these are all of the things that we have to do. Location's important. The tax philosophy is quite important as well. And this is where we're coming across as a partnership to see how we can actually make things happen. So one of the things that we can actually talk about right now, Neil, is whatever you're looking for in terms of your long-term plans. This is where myself, combined with a real estate investor opportunity, we can do everything. We help you find your property. We'll put it in the market for either long-term or short-term. We'll plug you into our South African network if you want to, or take you away if you don't want to be part of the SAFAs. There'll be tax compliance that we need to just bring to your attention. Your relocation, we can advise on providers we worked with in South Africa. How do you actually get your permanent residency? What must you do in South Africa before you step across the side of the pond so that your paperwork's in a fold and it makes it easy for the solicitor to do what's needed? What about the tax implications? What are the rulings? And this is where we work with providers that are very familiar with the tax regime in South Africa, the double taxation treaty, what's involved, and how we can get things to move quite smoothly, that you don't have these bottlenecks on your journey. You're wanting to get an a plane, shoot across with mom, dad, the kids, and the goldfish in a bowl, and make this your new plan if this is actually what the strategy is.
Excellent. So there's a lot of things here to consider, a lot of moving parts. And the fortunate thing is they've got you, Jenny, to help you through, to hold their hand throughout the journey of this. And so, I mean, I think South Africans always are intrigued by, always by people that have moved there to the country. And maybe you've got, before we talk about the actual trip, because this is pretty exciting stuff, maybe you want to share one or two sort of examples of sort of success stories, previous investors who have benefited from Cyprus's property market and also the residency program before we get into the tour. So just say to everybody, hang on, we're going to be talking about the tour, but maybe just give us a couple examples of some happy customers.
Yes, of course. So Neil, one of the earliest investors that we had around about the 2010 mark is a couple from East London, and they had a young kid at school, and they just saw, when I introduced them to the international school in Paphos, the opportunity for their son to be able to be part of a much bigger education process that would take him to new things. And he finished his matric equivalent. He's now in his second year studies in the UK, and their life changed because of that decision that they made to move across for the benefit of the child. We've had people on the other side of the age spectrum who've decided to move here because they want to enjoy much more of the outdoor life. They don't want to be stuck in a retirement village where everything's kind of in that bundle. They want to be able to drive the car down to the beach, walk along, do a camera class. And we've had a lady, my most senior lady, was somebody who was about to turn 78. And she made the lock, stock, barrel move from Somerset West. And then we've had a lot of people in between who start off with the residency saying, this is a plan B, not too sure if we'll come across. And then sure enough, suddenly they've got their container on the boat and they're here living the dream life in the Mediterranean. So every age, Neil, seems to be a little plug hole that might be useful for something, for somebody's plans to come across to Cyprus. So
wonderful.
This is where we say
yes,
now what?
So right, absolutely. So this is what I think everybody must. It's a fantastic opportunity, I think, and because as I say, you've got to go and feel the cloth. You've got to fly over. Beautiful country, right next to the sea. Paphos, in particular, beautiful city. What should investors expect on a Cyprus inspection trip and property tour, and how can they make the most of the 3 free nights in Paphos? Can you give us dates and details?
Exactly. So you've got to book your trip. As you said, Neil, the most important thing for any investor, I mean, if you were in Cape Town wanting to buy in Joburg, you jump on a flight and you'd go and check it out. You maybe go 3 or 4 times. It's expensive to come to Europe 3 or 4 times, but we make this your LSD trip. Look, see, discover. We'll use the time effectively. It really is your moment. We've got a special tour offer. We've got the last 3 tours of the year, Neil, where I'll be here with my team. So basically from the 14th to the 21st of September is tour 4. Then we've got the 21st to the 28th, and we've tried to tie them around some of the public holidays in South Africa to maximize. Then we've got a bit of a breather, and then our last one will be from the 5th to the 12th of October. But having said that, don't feel that you've got to be hooked by these dates. We run them throughout the year. This is just when I will definitely be in Cyprus to be able to be with you. If I happen to be somewhere else, then we'll have to do it on another time. But there are times at your convenience. We put you up at the beautiful 5-star Coral Beach Hotel. Airline tickets are around about 12.5, maybe 14,000 Rand per person return, depending on which airline. You need to get a visa. If you don't already have a Schengen visa in your South African passport, it's 80 euros equivalent for a Cypriot visa. You mentioned, yes, the first 3 nights of the 5-night tour are on me. I'm picking up the cost. And thereafter, it's 130 euros per couple per night. So you're looking at 260 euros, 80 euros for a visa fee, your airline ticket, your camera, your sun lotion, your walking shoes, and just, 5 days out of coming across and just exploring what this country might have to offer in terms of what you're looking for. And it's really great. We immerse you in the culture, the lifestyle. We'll take you out to restaurants up in the old town, enjoy the Cypriot meze. We'll take, if timing permits, there might be a boat cruise involved. So we really make this your time to look, see, discover what Cyprus might have on board for you as a potential investor.
Wonderful. There's actually a link in the chat box. And so if anybody's interested, you can either just click directly on that link, or you can go to the cypriotrealty.com website and you can also book there, or you can just let us know at REI. And it's highly recommended. I think if you are serious, you must go, and I would really make the time. At the same time, it's an opportunity to have the best of the last of the summer break in Europe, and to experience the sunshine. It's a good time to go, September, because it's still very hot. What are the temperatures like in September and October? Still like summer, Jenny?
Oh yeah, no, it's great. So I mean, the sea temperature is between 23 and 24 degrees now, which is great. And you're looking at around about high 20s is the daytime, and around about low 20s for the nighttime in September. And that's you raise a good point there, Neil, about the reason we chose September is because a lot of the students have gone back to university in Europe. They start the first week of September, so that means the airline tickets will be slightly cheaper. You're not going to have this chaos with everybody running around on summer school holidays, but you've still got the energy of people that are enjoying the summer, as you said, the last of the summer on the island. So just to recap, anytime your listeners and your clients want to come across Neil, we're available. These tours are just set up where we know we're going to be here in Cyprus for the month, so we're available to be on hand, and it's limited to 5 couples per tour. We don't sit in a big bus and everybody does their own thing. You have your own dedicated agents. It's a very personal thing. We understand the complexities, getting your money out. It's an emotional decision. So we want to be able to respect that as well when we're going on the tour and showing you around and just looking at this possible as a plan B.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Jenny, fantastic as usual. What I'd like to end, I mean, unless there are any questions, and there were 1 or 2 questions, I think, that came in before. If there are any additional questions, I still see there are people on. So, obviously, if you do have any questions, please fire away. Maybe just your final wrap, your final thoughts there, Jenny, message to the audience. Maybe just leave your parting shot before we exit.
They say, when is the time right? When should we planted a tree? Well, 20 years ago. We don't know, and it's not scaremongering, but if you have an opportunity to get involved in Europe, you're looking at Cyprus, the time is now. We just don't know when the program's going to close. This is a laid-back island. It's very so similar to South Africa. You drive on the left, I mentioned. It's a culture similar to South Africa, and as we know, everybody speaks English. There's lots of us around, so you're not going to feel like you're isolated and alien in another country. And Neil, take advantage. You're a real investor.
Wonderful.
Come on board.
Awesome. So once again, for those of you wanting to take the plunge and you meet up with Jenny and get personal guidance from Jenny, and she is a South African, she's done the move, she understands the property market, she also a residency specialist, and you need somebody like Jenny to help you, to take you through that particular process. She's waiting for you. And so please sign up. I suggest you sign up for that inspection trip and that property tour today. Wonderful opportunity, I think, to really get a look, feel, as you call it, an LSD trip to Cyprus. So look, see, and discover. And so I encourage you all to sign up today. So once again, Jenny, thank you very much. Just before we close, I just want to remind our audience of our next webinar on Thursday, which is Empowering Women Leaders, because it is Women of the Month here in South Africa, Jenny. And you're Women of the Month. You are South African Women of the Month on this webinar today. So to register in advance, you just click on the links below, or you just go to the REI website. So once again, Jenny, thank you for your insights. I really would, as I say, reach out to Jenny, come on the tour. It's a great opportunity to visit Cyprus. To our audience, once again, we appreciate your active participation, your engagement. If you've got any questions, please fire it to myself, info@rei.co.za, or neil@rei.co.za, or directly through to Jenny. We will ensure that she will get your inquiry. And so we hope that you not only gained a valuable knowledge today, that you will, if it's something that you are looking at, to take action and do the visit. So for everybody, this is Neil Peterson of Real Estate Investor, along with Jenny Ellenis of Cypriot Realty, signing out. Take care and goodbye.